Oh hey guys, didn't see you there. God, this looks like the beginning of a very artsy porno. It is nearly midnight on a Monday, and I thought, you know, it is finally time to sit down and chat with you guys. I honestly feel like over the past, maybe even like 3 months, it's been a long ass time since I've been able to sit down in front of a camera and talk genuinely and openly in the way that I used to. My plan for this video is, in classic sleepover style, to film it very late so that I'm more emotionally vulnerable than usual, to sit on my bed and chat with you guys. First, I'm gonna catch you guys up on all the shit that's been going on in my life and all of my feelings. So many feelings. Objectively too many feelings for my brain to handle. Love that for me. And then I asked you guys on Instagram to shoot me your boy problems, your questions about sex, your questions about life, living in your 20s, and I am going to do my best to give you guys advice, despite being a very emotional mess myself. So yeah, okay, what's been going on with me? For those of you who don't know, I was in like my first long-term relationship ever with David. We went to New York at the end of July and then we broke up soon after that. So, oh boy, there has been a process of self-discovery. Even though some of you guys are curious, I'm not gonna go super in detail about why we broke up, just out of respect for David's privacy. And I do realize that that's a little bit hypocritical because I was so willing in my previous videos to show those like super romantic lovey-dovey moments and show the perfect side of our relationship. I am complicit in producing a image of a perfect couple online that wasn't perfect. But for some reason, it feels easy to share the good parts of your life and the good parts of a relationship, but it is much harder to share your struggles, especially in a way that doesn't invade somebody else's privacy or feel like you are speaking badly of them, which I would never want because David is a really good guy. So, I don't mean to be dramatic at all. It was a good relationship, it just wasn't the right relationship. But there's a saying that the heart is like a muscle and you just have to like exercise it and it'll get stronger, you know? Which I totally feel is true because the first time I got my heart broken, I was like shattered for like 3 months. I could not stop crying. But as I've grown up, I mean, it's still hard, but it becomes so much more manageable as you know what you want and who you are and what value you have, whether or not you're in a relationship. And that is like one of the most fucking amazing things about growing up. It also does actually feel good to finally be alone with my own brain. I think when you're in a long-term relationship and you spend that much time with somebody, they can also kind of get in your head even when you're not around them. So for example, in the weeks after the breakup, my brain had this like default process still of being like, oh, what would David think of this video idea? Or what would David say about the food that I'm eating right now? And it can be hard to separate those thoughts out of your head, but it can also be really freeing to realize that there isn't another person who gets their input about you. And the only thing that matters is your opinion about yourself and what you want to do. And that's a beautiful thing. I feel like in a way, being in a relationship is, I don't know if we have any artists out here, but I was an art kid growing up. So when you're drawing something and you like really get into that flow state, you're just like working, you lose track of time, you lose track of your need to like eat or sleep. All that you're thinking about is creating this beautiful piece of art. And I feel like that's what a relationship is. It's beautiful, but it also feels like these blinders and you don't really realize that the world is whizzing around you until you're out of that relationship or your art piece is done in this metaphor. And you look up and you realize that like, oh shit, it's 2 a.m. Or for me, like, oh shit, like I graduated college. I'm a real adult now and I don't fucking have any friends. My point is right now, I am in like a process of rebuilding my social circles. I always tell myself that I'm not gonna be that bitch who forgets to hang out with any friends or make any effort to make friends when she's in a relationship, but that was totally me. And also something that wasn't healthy. I think it's always healthy in a relationship to have a steady group of friends around you. Honestly, like earlier this week, I was very sad. I cried myself to sleep, I think like 3 days in a row. Not ideal. I was getting in a little bit of my pity rabbit hole that happens sometimes. And it's never good because I just feel like more and more sorry for myself. This is deeply personal. Okay, point is I finally like whipped my ass into shape and reached out to a bunch of people that I kind of had met very briefly and had been meaning to hang out with for like 8 months, but I had just never actually put the effort into it. So yeah, this weekend I hung out with a ton of new people and fingers crossed I shall build those friendships. You know, it is a lot of work to try to build friendships from scratch as an adult, and it feels a little bit odd. I feel like almost like there's something wrong with me that I don't have this like perfect friend group coming out of college, but I think it happens to a lot of people. So, oh, this weekend I had my first girls' night ever. Can you believe it? I'm 21 and I've never had a girls' night out. I grew up with a lot of guy friends and then I had like a couple close girlfriends, but whenever we would like party or hang out, it was predominantly guys, and I didn't realize what I'd been fucking missing until this weekend. It was so cool to be able to take a shot with these girls that I had never met before, and then like 5 minutes later, we're talking about like our deepest, darkest boy problems and insecurities during sex. I felt this like innate camaraderie that I hadn't felt with my guy friends before, and it was fucking beautiful. It was really, really nice. I also feel like I grew up with the misconception that for some reason having guy friends is cooler than having girlfriends, which is like super fucked up, obviously, but that was kind of the culture that I was raised in. And I do really like my guy friends, but are you kidding me? It is cool as fuck to have girlfriends. Oh, another big life update is I literally might move to New York. It's something that I've wanted to do forever, and I always talk about being more of a New York person than an LA person. So my plan right now is my lease is up at the end of February. Until then, I'm gonna try to make as many friends as I can in LA, have as much fun as I can here, and really experience the city as a whole. And if I'm still not feeling it, then in February I'm moving to New York. Oh, that feels super weird to say out loud, but also exciting. I don't know, I want to live in so many different places, and I feel like this is the time to do it, especially because I have the incredible luxury of having a job that both allows me to afford a bunch of different cities and do it in a bunch of different cities, which, like, how rare is that? That is incredible. Anyways, okay, enough about me. Let's see what's up with you guys and see if I can hand out any marginally helpful advice. Oh my god. I don't know if I should put this in this video, but my ex from like 2 years ago, this isn't David, says, how do I put a penis in a vagina? Help! Tristan, I have a feeling you know how. How to navigate the I like you but I don't want commitment situation. ... I hate men. Oh boy. Girl, I feel you. This whole casual dating thing to me is a complicated new phenomenon. I personally don't get it, but I also don't think there's anything wrong with not wanting a serious commitment. I think the problem comes with not respecting that person's preference or thinking that you can try to change them. There's a really pervasive narrative in rom-coms that if you're the right girl who he loves enough, any boy will change his mind and want to marry you. And frankly, that is not true. I have very much blamed myself for guys not wanting something serious with me, when in reality, that is just a lifestyle preference that somebody can want. It is not your fault if that guy doesn't want a serious commitment with you, and if he's clear about it up front, it's also not his fault for not falling in love with you, which was something that took a while to get through my head. Based on the way you phrased this question, it seems like you want a committed relationship and this guy does not. And I think it's important to respect his boundaries and not expect him to change them for you, and also respect your preference for a committed relationship and know that there are plenty of guys out there who are ready for a committed relationship, and that's genuinely what they want with you. And I think it's just a recipe for heartbreak and wasting your own time if you continue getting more emotionally invested with a guy who doesn't want anything serious with you. I do think it's kind of a sad byproduct of hookup culture sometimes that we as women, if you are interested in something serious, feel the need to lower ourselves to kind of like the lowest common denominator of what a guy wants in a relationship. Like, you might like a guy, but he just wants to hook up. So then you're like, okay, I'll just hook up with him. That's fine. Or like this guy who likes you but doesn't want a serious commitment. You might want a serious commitment, but then you say, okay, it's okay. I'm just gonna casually date him for like a couple more months. Obviously that's a stereotype. There are totally girls who prefer to keep things casual as well. But it took me a while to realize that it's okay to assert my preferences. If I want something serious, I deserve a guy who wants something serious. And if I want something casual, I deserve a guy who wants something casual too. So even though it might be hard, I would say move on from this guy. There will be somebody else who wants what you want. How do you start a conversation about what you like during sex? This is such a good question because we're taught to feel a lot of shame about sex. And even like literally when you've just fucked somebody, it can still feel embarrassing to verbalize the things that just happened or what you would like to happen. I think the best strategy is to bring it up when you're kind of in an intimate setting, whether you're cuddling or you might be like pillow talking after sex, maybe not immediately after sex. 10 minutes into the pillow talk chat. The way that I always bring it up is asking the other person whether they have anything in particular that they like in bed, if they have kinks or sexual preferences or like things that they find hot. That's a great way to open up the conversation because it doesn't start with a critique, it starts with just like getting to know somebody else and giving them an opportunity to talk about what they like. And then obviously you'll get your opportunity to talk about the things that you like and that you might be into. Yeah, those are always fun conversations to have because I feel like a lot of the stress of sex is trying to figure out what things in particular you're doing that the other person likes and being scared that you're doing something or being like a little bit too bold and that you might kind of be embarrassing yourself because they're not turned on by it. So having that conversation is super freeing because you can know the particular things that your partner likes and they know what you like, which also has obvious benefits. Are relationships really that amazing? Sometimes I feel like I just want one for the validation. Honestly, girl, I feel like you are not super alone. I think that our culture completely sets relationships as the default, and especially for a woman, being in a relationship is like this badge of honor. And sometimes you just want that fucking badge. And also it can feel nice to have somebody who's like designated to pay attention to you, essentially, and like care about your feelings. That can be fun. I think unfortunately that results in a lot of girls and guys staying in relationships that are a little bit mediocre or that they shouldn't stay in just because they want the validation of saying, hey, I'm in a relationship, I have a girlfriend or I have a boyfriend. And what really matters is, do you have a quality boyfriend who you love, who you are super into, who respects you? Those are the qualifiers that matter, not just do I have one or do I not? Without sounding like too much of a mushball though, I really genuinely think that relationships and just the feeling of love in general is something amazing and transformative and helps you learn about yourself and also experience the world in a different way. I'm sounding so cheesy right now. Falling in love is something beautiful. I think that being in a relationship is also something that's hard. Based on the way you phrased your question though, it seems like you might just not have anybody in your life at the moment who is a particularly spicy love interest, and that's totally okay. I wouldn't try to force a relationship with anybody that you have kind of like meh feelings about just to have a relationship. Eventually there's gonna be somebody that you're crazy about, and then it'll be time to jump in. This is maybe too personal, but is queefing a thing that others experience, LMAO? Yes. Yes, it does, especially when you are switching positions a lot, or like, I've noticed it happens more with certain guys than others, so I think it's just like a certain shape of penis, maybe. But yeah, it's completely normal. It can feel awkward because yeah, it does sound like a fart, but I think most guys who are at least like moderately experienced will know what it is, and that's just like a normal part of having sex. If anything, it just means that you're really going at it, sis, so. Good job. I used to have a joke that it was like my vagina saying thank you. So really they should take it as a compliment. Also, I feel like a lot of us have a huge fear of sex being awkward, but I think one of the funnest things about sex is that like it's both hot but can also be really funny because it's two people being very vulnerable with each other, and like, I don't know, if you're clumsy or you like fuck up a position or like you miss their face and you kiss their nose instead, or you like end up queefing, like you can just laugh it off and like it makes the experience almost more fun. I know that's easier said than done, but guys have like some of the same insecurities about performance during sex, so if you're just like both welcoming to each other and can both like have a jolly good time learning how to have good sex with each other, like I think it'll be for the better. Do boys become more mature in college? I would say boys like regress for the first 2 years of college because it's all these like nerdy ass boys who are finally surrounded by more beautiful women than they've ever seen in a more casual hookup culture than they've ever experienced before without parental supervision. So it is a bit of a recipe for fucking around, but by the end of college, I would say boys definitely do get more mature. More people are open to dating seriously, they're thinking about their careers, they're not as stupid, they're still like a little bit stupid, but only occasionally. Dealing with exes who want to be friends, all the good and the bad feelings. This is relevant to my life actually because I'm filming this video series with each of my other 3 exes, the exes before David, because when I started filming this series I was still with David. So yeah, I guess I've recently become friends with like all of my exes, and it has been interesting. I would say There is a certain period of time after a breakup where you should not be friends with your ex, period, because it'll turn into some weird emotional mush and you guys will end up hooking up or developing feelings or getting back together. Depending on the relationship, give it like a year, 2 years, a solid amount of time where you know that the feelings have settled down. And then I honestly do think it's really nice to be friends with your exes. It's given me a lot of closure on my past relationships to be able to talk about things from kind of a distanced perspective and honestly have some more honest conversations than we had when we were actually together. I also like that exes are kind of like time capsules in your life in that they knew you intensely at a particular phase of your life. So talking to them is like being able to reconnect with a past version of yourself almost, which is really cool, especially as somebody who has like a very nebulous identity and I change a lot and I don't fucking know what my personality is. Like, it's doing a little bit of personality research, going to talk to my exes. It is important to ask yourself though whether your ex wants to be friends because they want to get back together, because they have feelings, because they want to hook up, or genuinely whether they want to be friends, and also like what your preferences are in that situation, because it can be a little bit of a slippery slope when you're digging up old feelings with your exes. My man won't go down on me, but I always suck his dick. That sucks, first of all. Okay, I really hate the double standard when it comes to oral sex. Luckily, I haven't run into any guys like this in my personal life, but I feel like overall, there is a bit of a double standard where a blowjob is considered a very standard part of sex, but for a lot of guys, eating a girl out is something very special and occasional. Oral sex doesn't have to always be a one-for-one transaction. Like, you shouldn't necessarily feel like you need to keep count or that somebody owes you something for something. But I think generally it's good to keep a somewhat even ratio there and know that, you know, you're both putting in equal amounts of effort. I would say, first of all, have like an open conversation about it. It could just be like maybe he is inexperienced or nervous eating a girl out, in which case, you can be like, let's have a little tutorial sesh and I'll just move you around and tell you what's good. If for some reason he doesn't want to eat you out, like you can't force him to eat you out, but you can find other ways that you are getting your part of the action as well. Honestly, I do enjoy a good finger banging. Like, I feel like it's kind of underrated, and if you can teach him to like do it properly and get some like vagina and clit action in there, like that could also be fun foreplay. Or like if you want to introduce a vibrator or something that also gets you really turned on, I think that is important because you should equally like be turned on and have a good time during sex. Oh, and as for the blowjobs, ask yourself like, if you enjoy giving the blowjob, then continue doing that. But if you feel like it is some type of duty or an expectation that is placed on you, then you don't have to do it all the time. The first like 9 months I was having sex, actually, I hadn't ever given a blowjob and I didn't really have any desire to, so I just, you know, didn't do that. And guys were like totally fine with that. They didn't like ask me for a blowjob or anything. I still had banging sex, so it's not a necessary part of foreplay if it's not something that you're interested in doing as well. Thoughts on nudes? I have mixed opinions about nudes because I do understand from like the female perspective how they can be like kind of hot to take and send, because you're like, ooh, I'm like teasing my man, I feel really sexy right now. Even like the process of taking the photo can be really fun, but especially with the internet, it does put you in a very compromised position. I was in a long distance relationship for a while, and I think I sent one digital photo of me in my underwear, and then I sent some like physical photos of me in lingerie because I didn't want to spend the digital file. Oh god, now I'm gonna get hacked like James Charles and have to leak my own nudes. Damn it. No, so I understand the appeal, especially in a long distance relationship, but I personally don't think that a full nude is worth the risk. Even if you have a ton of trust in somebody when you're in a relationship with them, who knows what happens with the breakup, or like 5-10 years down the line, they could still have that photo in their camera roll. And to me, that's really scary. I would never send a nude to somebody that I'm just hooking up with because you haven't built a lot of trust with them. I think it is fucked up and completely a guy's fault for ever sharing something as private as nudes with anybody else. But I do know that it happens, and obviously that is not the girl's fault for taking the nude, it is the guy's fault for sharing it, but it is important to be very careful. Another note, if you are under 18, do not fucking take nudes. That is considered child pornography. It is not only super illegal for anybody to distribute those nudes, but it's actually technically illegal for you to take them because you are technically producing child pornography. So yeah, pro tip. Please be legal before you take any nudes. And even then, be careful. Oh my god, also if a guy on like Tinder or from a dating app ever asks for nudes, do not send them. If you're interested in hooking up with a guy, you can still get him without sending nude pictures of yourself. He can come see your body in person. Yeah, I just don't want you guys to like put yourself at risk for exposing things that you don't want to be exposed. Thoughts on age gaps? Here in Los Angeles, age gaps are like super fucking out of control. Like there really is a trickle-down effect from Hollywood stars, Leonardo DiCaprio, dating people who are less than half his age. Like I've had friends out here who are 22 and they're like, oh, I'm into older guys. I'm like, oh, okay, so you like maybe like a 25-year-old, a 26-year-old? And they're like, no, I like a 37-year-old. And I'm like, who? Okay, people are into whatever they're into, and I don't have the right to judge any particular relationship. But I do overall have a little bit of a problem with large age gaps. It can ultimately result from this older guy basically not being able to hold his own with women his age, or not feel secure with a woman who like actually challenges him and is his equal. So then he resorts to women who are much younger and much less experienced and look up to him. And it ends up a unequal power dynamic in the relationship because one person just like seems to have authority over the other. I think it is much harder to have a relationship that really feels like an equal partnership when you're at such different stages in your life. But I think there is something to be said. It's more about the stage of your life that you're in than your exact age. For example, like I'm 21, but I graduated college 6 months ago. So I do tend to date guys who are like 1, 2, 3 years older than me because they're in the same grade or starting their careers around the same time that I am. I honestly feel like for me, it would be weird to date a guy who's 21 who is like a junior in college because it seems like I'm in a different life stage than he is. So I kind of see it as if you're in high school, date high schoolers. If you're in college, date college students. If you're graduated, overall, date other people who are graduated. It's also just easier that way because you can relate to like the rhythms of working life or the rhythms of college or the drama of high school, and you're all in the same boat. I have a crush on my best friend's ex. What should I do? I feel like this depends on a lot of factors. It depends on how long your friend and this guy were together. It depends on how long has passed since then and if they are completely over each other. I think it's also important to think about why him and your friend broke up. If it was something that's like a red flag, like he cheated or was lying or something, then it's probably not somebody you should get in a relationship with. Before you do anything, I think you should really think out your feelings. Is it just a crush because he's a hottie, or is it something that you really could see turning into a serious relationship? If it is something that like you seriously want to pursue, 100% talk to your best friend first and make sure that you have her blessing and like double check. No matter what, don't go behind your friend's back. I feel like sometimes, I mean, I'm guilty of this. I get like swept away in boys, but I think at the end of the day, if she really is your best friend, friendships last much longer than relationships. So I think that's something that you should prioritize. This one says, a boy is giving me all the attention, but he has a girlfriend. I do kind of like him. So I don't have a whole lot of details on your situation, but the best rule of thumb is that if a guy has a girlfriend, he does not want to be in a relationship with you because he's not in a relationship with you. He's in a relationship with his girlfriend. I kind of speak from personal experience because I had a huge crush on this guy that I lived with before my freshman year. He had a girlfriend, but she was like away for the summer, and so we would like hang out late at night and we'd talk a lot. Somehow in my head, like I justified that this guy liked me even though he would talk about his girlfriend and how much he loved her, and that was, I mean, really fucked up of me, to be honest. I also somehow had felt like me having a crush justified trying to like screw up a full-blown relationship, and it absolutely does not. The emotional intensity of a relationship and the ramifications from that are completely different than somebody who you kind of like. Maybe like distance yourself from him a little bit if you do think you would develop feelings that are stronger. Honestly, I mean, the way that you phrased it, that he has a girlfriend but he's giving you all his attention, he doesn't sound like that great of a boyfriend. So he doesn't seem like a spicy candidate for you either. You know, if you really do like him, one day he could be single and then you will have your chance. But in the meantime, don't do anything sketchy. I love my boyfriend, but sometimes I miss being single. These are feelings I've dealt with for sure, especially in a longer term relationship. I don't know, I've been single like a lot of my life, So I like, even like more than having sex with other people, is the excitement of meeting new people and the like potential of a night. There can be fun potential in a night with a boyfriend, but it doesn't quite feel the same, right? I would say if you really do love your boyfriend and you want to stay with him, maybe like try to figure out a way to spice things up in your relationship and your sex life that makes it feel kind of new, like you might experience with other guys when you're single. So that could be some type of role play, that could be exploring kinks together, that could be going on a really exciting new date that maybe you would like normally only pull out all the stops for somebody new who you really like were trying to get to fall in love with you. I feel like sometimes later in a relationship you can settle into more of a basic dating pattern and you're like, oh, do you want to get lunch at that same place that we always get lunch, instead of really putting in effort to court that other person. Editing this, I realized I blanked on the possibility that you might just miss the independence of being single and not just kind of this sexual dating aspect. Cars on my street, please calm down. Thank you. In that case, it might be worth talking to your boyfriend about setting boundaries that help you feel more independent, like having plenty of time for nights alone, friends and hobbies, and having the freedom to travel alone, go out without texting him constantly, etc. Oh, alrighty. Oh, what time is it? It is just past 2 a.m. I am one sweaty motherfucker. And I think I'm getting a little bit loopy. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. I don't think I've had this much fun filming a video like in a hot second. So let me know in the comments below if there are any other topics that you want me to cover in more detail. I'm probably gonna make like a ton more of these videos, or maybe more specific chats about like hookup culture, or specific aspects of sex or insecurities. Oh, there's so much to cover. Being a woman is so fucking complicated. That's the one benefit of like the mindfuck of being female, is that there's lots of content to exploit. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.